Okay, so let me continue. I'm talking to myself a little. Maybe it's because I'm getting old. Um, yeah, happens. Overcoming resistance to knowledge and change. A grim picture of the prospect of sustainability emerges when considering the various factors that drive knowledge resistance and resistance to change. However, we cannot afford to despair. Time is of the essence and much needs to be done. While some factors cannot be prevented, their effects can be mitigated by awareness, reflexivity, and conscious countermeasures. Other factors are indeed possible to prevent, although that would generally require significant attention, will, and tenacity. Most cognitive and psychological factors are rooted in our genetic legacy and cannot be fully eliminated. I'm also a big fan about evolutionary tendencies that are hard to get rid of. In the same family, you can have two people, siblings, being very different in their approaches to everything in life, especially environment, sustainability, climate change, and so on. However, and consumption, of course. However, their effects can be mitigated by increased awareness of them, by simply recognizing how our thinking and the thinking of others may be biased. We can become more mindful of why we think what we think and do what we do, and adjust our beliefs, actions, and interactions accordingly. So let's say enough people can do this kind of a change, hopefully also all the way to behavioral change and sustained behavioral change, then it's the system can survive and head towards sustainability, even though we will have freeloaders and people who will not move beyond their cognitive biases and bandwagons and mobs and so on. For instance, by simply being aware of how we are biased by our own and recent experiences, as well as to take risks and For instance, by simply being aware of how we are biased by our own and recent experiences, as well as to take risks and bend information to suit our preconceived understanding, we may become more inclined to take a step back, seek additional information, and engage our reason before making any decisions and actions, what Kahneman calls engaging system 2. Daniel Kahneman, who won, behavioral psychologist who won the Nobel Prize for Economics, wrote this book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, died very recently at 94 or so, called something System 2. Similarly, thinking fast and thinking slow, deliberate thinking versus 2 plus 2 is 4, but as soon as you say 18 times 27, you have to think, right? Similarly, the effects of cognitive and psychological biases can also be mitigated by encouraging diverse perspectives, active listening, and critical thinking. There is evidence that by hanging around with people who disagree with you, you learn more and more about things beyond your cognitive biases, but you need to force yourself to do that, because it's easy to be with people who agree with you. Be in your echo chamber. Exposing people to a broader range of beliefs and values, ideally, whilst they try to keep open minds, can help them challenge preconceived notions, become more aware of their biases, and be more open to changing their perspectives. Encouraging critical thinking and reflexivity also helps mitigate the effects of cognitive and psychological biases by providing a way for people to question their assumptions and values and evaluate the veracity of any claims. Moreover, promoting curiosity, exploration, and a willingness to learn can make people more open to new ideas and less resistant to change. These are just kind of general words of what is possible, but will they work in actually reducing resistance or even removing resistance to change and knowledge? The education system worldwide must endeavor to keep up with the escalating needs of critical thinking and reflexivity to thwart the proliferation of knowledge resistance. To conclude then, it's easy to become disillusioned when going through various factors driving resistance to knowledge and change. We are working against millions of years of natural selection that left us highly adapted to hunter-gatherers life in small, tight-knit groups, and entirely different life than that of 99.9% of the global population today. In addition to the evoked behavior rooted in our genes, we are also working against the results of cultural and social selection that underlie our behavior acquired through imitation and learning and imposed through norms and sanctions, and against other co-evolutionary processes continuously restructuring society. So survival often drives everything. Anything that costs you in terms of time, resources, energy, you're probably likely to walk away from, other than cognitive biases and confirmation biases. Hence, there are many cognitive, psychological, social, cultural, political, economic, administrative, and technological factors influencing knowledge resistance and resistance to change. A pool player would say that we are behind the 8 ball, which is a difficult position indeed, because you want to shoot the 8 ball into the pocket and not point the other way, especially with the opponents skillfully undermining our game by doing everything they can to cultivate uncertainty and ambiguity to maintain the status quo. We have our own interest, and we're being driven by people with their own interests. When our interests match, we do wrong things because it benefits us, and so on, right? However, it's not impossible to move from here. We have to. We have no other choice. We either overcome pervasive resistance to knowledge and change and address our sustainability challenges, or we keep acting like we have some unspoken collective suicide pact. We can never undo our genetic legacy, but we can spread awareness of the drivers of knowledge resistance and resistance to change, educate people in critical thinking and reflexivity, ensure broad inclusion and diversity of perspectives, and have technology work for us and not against us. All very nice words, but again, rational ignorance plays a big role. There is also a wide range of mitigation measures to address specific factors. We must do our utmost to overcome knowledge resistance and resistance to change. However, Ruskin is right when stating what we think, or what we know, or what we believe is in the end of little consequence. The only thing of consequence is what we do. This is true because we may set up a system, legal protection, everything to, let's say, protect minorities and women, and many people may believe that this is important, but unless they act to protect minorities and women in not only physical ways but also by paying their taxes, allowing welfare networks, welfare safety nets, and voting rights, justice, etc., it doesn't matter what you think. Or sometimes people say something outwardly to gain image and tributary power, but in the privacy where they have to make a decision, they may not necessarily support these broad-minded decisions that helps everybody beyond their own interest, right? So what we do is in fact the most important thing, as opposed to what we say or what we believe and so on. So let's leave this here in terms of resistance to change and knowledge and how to overcome them, and what our intrinsic evolutionary biases are that continue to make it difficult. Okay, so I'll come back and move on to the next chapter, which is on developing capacities for resilience, but again I have recorded it from the first edition of the book, and I'll add some additional points from the second edition of the book, and then we'll move to social change for resilience, and then a new chapter called Bumpy Road from Industria to Sustainia, another utopian idea from the author, but we will read that as well. Okay, so see you in the next chapter then. Where am I? I need to stop this recording here. I have to go eat lunch in this hot weather then. Okay, bye.